Kyrie Irving wanted a commitment on a long-term contract extension when they wanted to see a consistency in not just his performance and availability, but his ability to stay controversy-free.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest trade that could have possibly happened during this trade deadline has officially happened. And the crazy part is, there's still 4 days to go of this NBA trade deadline. So before we get to the content, my football channel microphone is about to pass this channel in subscribers. They're about 10,000 subscribers away. So if you happen to watch my content and you didn't hit that subscribe button or turn on the notification bell, make sure you do so. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Usually when this happens, we all make bank. PrizePicks is hooking us up for the Super Bowl with a free square from Patrick Mahomes, which means Mahomes just needs 1 passing yard in order for his square to convert. So all you have to do if you want to join is go to the link in the description down below, download PrizePicks, and use my promo code microphone so they can match up to $100 of your deposit. And once you're done with that, make these picks. Obviously, you should go with the Patrick Mahomes 0.5 passing yards and click more. Once you're done with that, one of my sleepers is going to be Kenneth Gainwell, who has been a monster throughout the playoffs for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he just needs to get higher than 21.5 rush yards. So we're going to click more there, and if Kenneth Gainwell gets more than 21.5 rush yards, you could 3x your money. Now, if you feel really good about this, you could also add Travis Kelce scoring 1 touchdown, and if both of these hit, you 5x your money. I play PrizePicks each and every day, and I post my picks to my story on Instagram. So make sure you're following me there if you want to see my picks on a daily basis. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? This Kyrie Irving situation has been absolutely bananas. I mean, I don't think I've seen a scenario like this before. Last year, the Brooklyn Nets really fell short of their expectations when they were eliminated in the first round of the NBA playoffs by the Boston Celtics. That offseason, Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets didn't agree on his value. The Brooklyn Nets were frustrated about the fact that Kyrie Irving wasn't really available to them throughout his entire tenure as a member of the Nets. I mean, in 4 seasons with the Brooklyn Nets, including this season, Kyrie Irving's played in 143 games. In 2 seasons with the Boston Celtics, he's played in 127 games. And here he is asking his employer for a maximum contract extension. Now, be real with me, because the Brooklyn Nets are clearly in a situation here. If you're the Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie comes up to you and says, hey, I want a maximum contract extension, would you give it to him? Let me know in the comment section down below and tell me why yes or no, because I think both sides play this horribly here, and I'm going to tell you how in just a sec. The Brooklyn Nets were in a completely different situation. I mean, you put all your eggs in the 7-Eleven basket. You gutted out your roster to build a team around Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving proved to be a little bit too volatile for you guys to ever contend. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kyrie Irving is a very, very talented player, one of the most entertaining players in the entire NBA. Problem is, you don't necessarily know when he's going to play or when he's going to have a crusade against the government over vaccination, which is his right. If he doesn't want to get the jab, he doesn't want to get the jab. Or when he wants to take personal time to hang out with his family, or when he wants to post a controversial video onto his social media page that would inevitably cause him to get suspended. And it's all these things just adding up to one another that ultimately defines Kyrie Irving, a very, very talented basketball player who's very unpredictable. That unpredictability could get in the way of you winning an NBA championship. And ultimately, that's where the Brooklyn Nets were coming from. We don't know if we want to commit to 4 more years and a maximum contract for a player that hasn't consistently been able to play for us. I mean, with all due respect, man, you remember when Kyrie Irving gave that Instagram live interview with Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant was trying to get him to just give his interviews like every basketball player typically does, and he got him on Instagram live, and Kyrie Irving said this:
in my past life, like I said, I was you. I was you. I was you. What you are now, that's what I'm up here. Same mentality. I'm getting to a spot.
I mean, just look at Kevin Durant's facial expression here, man. Like, you can tell this is a guy that just wants to hoop and just doesn't want to deal with the BS, but obviously he's dealing with one of Kyrie's Kyrieisms. If he was playing all of his games, I feel like this is a completely different story. And if these were one-off instances, like, oh, he posted this one video onto his social media account, well, that was only a one-time thing. I think he's not going to do that anymore. Or, oh, he needed to take personal time off to spend with his family. That's understandable. And, oh, he didn't want to get the vaccine. Well, he doesn't have to get the vaccine. If those are one-off experiences, I think he'd be in a different situation right now. It's the fact that he's experienced all of that throughout his Brooklyn Nets tenure that ultimately resulted in the Brooklyn Nets being a little unsure about whether they wanted to extend him or not. So Kyrie Irving opted into his player option, which would allow him to be a free agent this upcoming season. And it would give him some time to see if things would work out better with the Brooklyn Nets. Ultimately, Kyrie did deliver when he was on the basketball court. The Brooklyn Nets currently are the 4th seed in the East. But when Kyrie Irving stated that he wanted a contract extension from the Brooklyn Nets, that's when things got a little messy. Because the Brooklyn Nets just didn't want to commit to him for the long term, and they didn't agree that he deserves 4 years and $200 million. And that's fair of the Brooklyn Nets to say, but at the same time, what the hell are you guys doing? Respectfully to the Brooklyn Nets, I understand that you feel like you should be getting more out of Kyrie, and that makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, you gutted out your entire team to build around Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. This team has no more assets at all whatsoever. If you remember, this team is 2 years removed, well, a little bit over 2 years removed, from trading Jared Allen and Karis LeVert plus 3 first-round picks and 4 pick swaps to acquire James Harden. They did that just so they could get 15 games out of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. They then pivoted and decided to trade James Harden and Paul Millsap for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. And now they're deciding to trade Kyrie Irving. Because according to Rizgod Shams Charania, who's about to make every single Mavericks fan look like Kay Adams as he's rizzing all of you guys up, the Brooklyn Nets are trading Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks for Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a first-round pick, and multiple second-round picks. This is absolutely beautiful work for the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, no matter what happens in this instance, I think the amount that you're giving up to the Brooklyn Nets is well worth the risk. You're only giving up a first-round pick in this instance. You're giving up multiple second-round picks. You're giving up role players like Spencer Dinwiddie's a baller. He's going back to Brooklyn, which is where he started to develop, and Dorian Finney-Smith has been solid as ever. But to be honest, if this trade misses, if Kyrie Irving leaves in the offseason, I wouldn't say this is any sweat off of Mark Cuban's back. I mean, these assets aren't assets that could cripple you if you lose them. This isn't even close to what the Brooklyn Nets gave up for James Harden. And to be honest, Kyrie Irving at his age right now has some more value than James Harden did. I mean, I think he's the better player at this stage of his career than James Harden was at that stage of his career, respectively. I love James Harden. I think he's a fantastic player. But if you guys recall, a couple of months ago, we were getting reports constantly in regards to Luka Doncic putting pressure on the Dallas Mavericks front office to get him a co-star, a good star player that could play with him. And the question remained, who would that co-star be? Because the Mavericks went out and they got him Kristaps Porzingis in the very beginning, and Kristaps Porzingis didn't work out with the Dallas Mavericks originally. So that kind of gave Luka Doncic this label of being very ball dominant and not necessarily being able to coexist with another co-star. But it seemed like he was working well with Spencer Dinwiddie, and of course Kyrie Irving is a significant upgrade over Spencer Dinwiddie, who's a very good player. If I had to give a grade to the Dallas Mavericks for this instance, and we're gonna grade the Los Angeles Lakers and the Clippers as well because they were contenders in this race as well, I'd give them an A++. Even if Kyrie Irving leaves in the offseason, you didn't give up a tremendous amount of assets to get Kyrie Irving, and that's a huge win. When you also consider the fact that the Mavericks are currently 6th place in the Western Conference, and they could definitely make a huge run in the Western Conference, considering that Luka Doncic has been playing out of his mind, on top of the fact that the Western Conference is relatively open and compared to previous years, I think this is an A+. But also, what this does is it indicates to Luka Doncic that you don't have to go anywhere. We're all in on not only getting you co-stars and players to play with you, but we're gonna do it in an intelligent way. Even if this is a rental, you get to see if Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic could coexist. If they can't, then Kyrie Irving walks away. That's not a big deal. Or you might use him in a sign-in trade. That's not a big deal. Only give up a first-round pick, a couple second-round picks, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Spencer Dinwiddie. I think the Brooklyn Nets are also also trading Markieff Morris in this trade as well. Now, I know there's a lot of disappointed Laker fans. There's some disappointed Clipper fans, and we're going to get to them in just a sec. I really want to discuss the Brooklyn Nets here because I don't necessarily know how I'd feel if I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, and I don't necessarily know how I'd feel if I'm Kevin Durant. I mean, Kevin Durant signed with the Brooklyn Nets in 2019, hitched his wagon to Kyrie Irving because they both got along together very well. And ultimately, that seemed to have been a legacy-defining mistake for Kevin Durant. We've talked about this a lot last year in the summertime. If Kevin Durant would have stayed with the Golden State Warriors after he tore his Achilles and then Klay Thompson would tear his ACL in the same game, assuming that Klay Thompson would tear his Achilles tendon before the NBA draft once again and Kevin Durant was still on the roster, he would have had his opportunity to show how important he was to that Golden State Warriors team. He would have been placed in a situation where he could have consistently contended for NBA championships. Even today, when the Golden State Warriors' wheels are falling off a little bit, Kevin Durant would have consistently been able to contend, and it would have been all about basketball. There wouldn't be any drama. And it's really unfortunate because although we always make fun of Kevin Durant for his Twitter fingers and how sensitive he is, at his core, of course, this is a guy that just really loves the game of basketball and really loves hooping. And it's really unfortunate that he put himself in this situation. It's unfortunate that he depended on Kyrie Irving, one of his best friends, for them to be able to contend for championships together. And it's unfortunate that it blew up in his face. At the end of the day, this is a guy that wanted to go to a team that hasn't necessarily had a tremendous history and resurrect that franchise and bring him a championship. And ultimately, it didn't work. And now Kevin Durant is stuck on the Brooklyn Nets until his age 38 season in 2026. He's stuck on this team for another 4 years. Now, I don't necessarily know if the Brooklyn Nets are going to trade him this year either, because you also have to understand that the problem that the Nets were having in the offseason with Kevin Durant was, one, they didn't necessarily know what his value was. This is a 34-year-old that already suffered a major Achilles tear a couple seasons ago. You don't know how much longer Kevin Durant could go for. Hopefully for a long time. Hopefully he could have LeBron James-like longevity, but expecting players to have LeBron James-like longevity isn't really fair. At the same time, what team would be willing to give up multiple first-round picks or young players in return for a 34-year-old Kevin Durant, knowing this information? And that's where it all came down to. That was the whole problem with the Brooklyn Nets. They didn't know what to do to maximize their return with Kevin Durant, and they probably still don't. This is a team that, once again, is completely gutted of any assets. I mean, yay, they got a first-round pick from the Dallas Mavericks. Congratulations. I don't necessarily think that first-round pick is going to be that valuable. It seems like the Brooklyn Nets are once again in the same exact position as they were in during the Mikhail Prokhorov era 10 years ago when they traded for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Jason Terry and essentially gifted the Boston Celtics a dynasty. And I'm not saying this to poke fun at Nets fans because I know this sucks. I'm a Laker fan and we're kind of about to experience the same exact thing here. As a matter of fact, we couldn't trade for Kyrie Irving because of our circumstances, but it just sucks. I mean, this is a team that went all in once again and it blew up in their face. And now we will potentially, if he doesn't get traded during the trade deadline, which I can't imagine him getting traded during the trade deadline, considering that the Brooklyn Nets are still the 4th seed in the East. This is a player that might spend the rest of his days on the Brooklyn Nets just playing for pretty much nothing if he doesn't get traded. I mean, we're going to keep an eye on it. I don't expect Kevin Durant to get traded this week, but it's still something to monitor. And at the very minimum, I have tremendous empathy for KD. Perspective of the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm very happy they didn't trade for Kyrie Irving. There would be just way too much riding on one of the most volatile players in the entire NBA. The Lakers would have potentially have to given up both of their future first-round picks for Kyrie Irving. I wouldn't be comfortable doing that for a player that could potentially leave his existing team in free agency. It's putting way too much on the shoulders of a volatile player, and I just don't think that's smart business if you're the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers really need Kyrie Irving to be successful. I think they just need to add better role players around LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And for the Los Angeles Clippers, I think this would have made a lot of sense for them, but at the end of the day, I believe in the playoffs. Depth rules overall. I think with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and the depth that the Clippers have, they could definitely be successful in the playoffs. So I could also understand why that didn't end up happening for them as well. This made a lot of sense for the Mavericks. I mean, out of all teams that had the most to gain of this situation and the least risk out of this situation, It was the Dallas Mavericks. If Kyrie Irving leaves, well, you know he doesn't work out with Luka Doncic. Yes, there are questions about whether or not defensively they're going to be sound and whatnot, but at the very minimum, you're showing Luka Doncic that, hey, we're doing everything we can to consistently surround you with the best talent as we possibly can. And if this doesn't work out, we're going to keep trying until we find someone that does work out. And that should keep Luka Doncic in Dallas for the foreseeable future, at least hopefully. It seems eerily reminiscent to what the Houston Rockets did for James Harden. I mean, originally trading for Dwight Howard. And after they traded for Dwight Howard, they tried to bring in Chris Paul. After Chris Paul didn't work out, they brought in Russell Westbrook. Once Russell Westbrook didn't work out, they brought in John Wall, but they didn't even give John Wall a chance because James Harden inevitably left. So it's very similar to that. Hopefully you get a different result and you get a player that truly appreciates that you're doing everything you can to bring in superstars to consistently play with him. Let me know in the comment section down below, what are you grading the trade for each side? For the Dallas Mavericks, I give them an A+. For the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, I have to give them a D just for the way the entire Kyrie Irving saga was handled, just for the way they handled the past 4 years. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.